Friends and viewers, Sir Thomas More had written a very famous, well known book, Utopia. This is an utopia from which other utopiae concept had horizon. So, utopia basically means nowhere, no place. Written by Thomas More. Thomas More tells us about his travel to Antwerp as an ambassador for England and King Henry VIII. While not engaged in his official duties, More spends time conversing about intellectual matter with his friend Peter Giles. One day, More sees Giles speaking to a bearded man whom More assumes to be a ship's captain. Giles soon introduces More to his new man, Raphael Haitolode. He turns out to be a philosopher and a world traveler. The three men retire to Giles' house for supper and conversation, and Haitolode begins to speak about his travel. Haitolode has been on many voyages with noted explorer Amerigo Vespucci, traveling to the New World, south of the equator, through Asia and eventually landing on the island of Utopia. He described the societies through which he travels with such insight that Giles and More become convinced that Haitolode would make a terrific counselor to a king. Haitolode refuses even to consider such a notion. Disagreement follows in which three discusses Haitolode's reason for his position. To make his point, Haitolode described a dinner he once shared in England with Cardinal Morton and a number of others. During this dinner, Haitolode proposed alternative to the many evil civil practices of England, such as the policy of capital punishment for the crime of theft. His proposal meet with derision until they are given legitimate thought by the cardinal, at which point they meet with a great general approval. Haitolode uses this story to show how pointless it is to counsel a king when the king can always expect his other counselor to agree with his own beliefs or policies. Haitolode then goes on to make his point through a number of other examples, finally noting nothing that no matter how good a proposed policy is, it will always look insane to a person used to a different way of saying the world. Haitolode points out that the policies of the Utopia are clearly superior to those of European, yet aids that Europeans would see as ludicrous, all important utopian policy of common property. More and Giles do disagree with the notion that common property is superior to private property, and the three agree that Haitolode should describe the utopian society in more detail. First, however, they break for lunch. Back from lunch, Haitolode described the geography and history of Utopia, explained how the founder of Utopia journal Utopus conquered the isthmus on which Utopia now stands, and through a great public work effort cut away the land to make an island. Next, Haitolode moves to a discussion of utopian society, portraying a nation based on rational thought, no rapacious love of gold, no real class distinction, no poverty, little crime or immoral behavior, religious tolerance, and little inclination to war. It is a society that Haitolode believes in superior to any in Europe. Haitolode finishes description and More explain that after so much talking, Giles, Haitolode, and he were too tired to discuss the particular point of Utopia. utopian society. More conclude that many of utopian customs described by Hytolode, such as their methods of making war and their belief in communal property, seems absurd. He does not admit, however, that he would like to see some aspect of utopian society put into practice in England, though he does not believe any such thing will happen. So, Sir Thomas More described more about his concept of utopia. Hytolode believes utopia to be the greatest social order in the world. As he says, everywhere else people talk about the public good but pay attention to their own private interest. In Utopia, where there is no private property, everyone is seriously concerned with pursuing the public welfare. In Utopia, no man worries about food or impoverishment for themselves or any of their descendants, unlike the rest of the world, where men do nothing productive, live in luxury. In Utopia, all people work and all will live. Only this in Hytolode's mind is truly just. Hytolode believes societies other than Utopia are merely conspiracies of the rich, whose object is to increase their own wealth while the government they control claims to be a commonwealth concerned with the common welfare. These societies are a realm of greed and pride causes man to measure their welfare not by their well-being, but by having things that others lack. This is irrational and unchristian. Only in Utopia has pride and all its attendant vices been eviscerated from society. Hytolode finishes narration and More comments that all three of them were too tired to discuss the portrait of Utopia that Hytolode had painted. They agreed to get together soon in order to be more fully analyze and argue about over the merits what was said. More does comment to the reader, however, that he thinks many of the utopian ways of life are absurd. From their methods of warfare to the religion, but most especially in the doctrine of communal property. It is from private property, that all nobility, magnificence, splendor, and majesty spring. And it is these things, in More's view, that are the crowning glory of European society. Nevertheless, More also claimed there are many utopian policies though which he leaves unidentified, though he would like to see employed in Europe, though he does not believe that wish will be soon fulfilled. So, analyzing this utopia, and first with a rousing flourish by Hytolode, in which he claims utopia to be the most perfect of societies, followed by More's assessment that many utopian policies are absurd, though some might be worthwhile to employ in Europe. The book gives very little indication of which these two sides it must support. More and Hytolode are interested by each other, but though More has learned much from Hytolode, he has not been convinced that his initial position against communal property was wrong. In his ambiguous ending in the book's overarching theme of worldly pragmatism versus philosophical idealism is crystallized. Between the two, a choice must be made. A choice for either comes with inherent limitation. Entering politics demand a sacrifice of idealism. Eschewing politics for pure world of philosophy entails an inability to even try to push one pure vision into reality. Utopia sits in the span between these two positions. It is a working society in which there is no evil, but the book can offer no means by which an existing society might be transformed into a utopian model, but in the figure of the fool, of the patient figure of Christian folly, secure in the knowledge. So Utopia does offer a means out of impasse. It sees about more and Aetholode. Utopia offer criticisms of European society, offer a model against which that society can be measured and perhaps repaired. But the book ultimately concludes that the only way to perfection is through Christianity and the coming of Christ. So this is the work written by a famous Utopia by Sir Thomas More. Thank you very much.